Hey, come here a second. Welcome to the Chef Blue Terrace, frérot. Today, we're going to talk about something that feels uncomfortable, maybe even a little painful, but also deeply freeing once you understand it. Yeah, you guessed it. We're talking about the toxic boy role. You know, that attitude people hype up as if it's power, ghosting, ignoring messages, acting cold, pretending you don't care. But don't worry, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to talk to you like a big sister, with respect, with honesty, and with zero shame. So take your time, grab a drink, grab a snack, or put on your headphones and walk around your room. Let this be your blue moment. Ready? Let's begin. You think acting toxic protects you. You ignore people, you ghost, you cancel plans. You play the I don't feel anything character. Some people even told you that this is what strong men do. But tell me honestly, does it really make you feel strong? On a scale from 1 to 10, 2? Yeah, I had a feeling. No one becomes toxic out of pure cruelty. It usually comes from fear. Fear of being hurt again. Fear of caring more than the other person. Fear of losing control. Fear of being rejected. Ghosting and manipulation feel like armor, but it's armor that rusts. It protects fast, but destroys slow. Before we talk about what you do, we need to talk about what you lived. Nobody wakes up one morning thinking, let me be toxic today. There's always a reason. Maybe it was an ex who humiliated you, or cheated, or ghosted you without warning. Maybe it's emotional wounds from childhood. Maybe you grew up hearing, real men don't cry, real men don't talk, real men handle it alone. So you learned to hide everything. And hiding became a habit, a shield, a second skin. And that second skin turned into cutting communication, running away when things get serious, shutting down instead of saying, I'm scared, acting cold so nobody sees you care. Then add the pressure from your friends. Bro, you ghosted her? You're the man. Don't be the one who catches feelings first. They call it the game, but it's not a game. It's a survival instinct. Your brain is just saying, protect me. I don't want to hurt again. But that's not power. That's fear in disguise. Let's name things clearly, not to shame you, but so you can recognize what needs to change. 1. Ghosting. Everything feels fine, then you vanish. You tell yourself, she'll understand eventually. She'll move on. But on the other side, there's someone questioning her worth, rewatching conversations, wondering what she did wrong. Ghosting leaves scars. 2. Selective replies. Reading messages and leaving someone on scene, not because you're busy, but because it gives you control. Creating artificial distance to avoid vulnerability. 3. Testing. Saying hurtful things just to see her reaction. Ignoring her when your friends are around to look unbothered. Making her jealous on purpose to confirm she cares. You may not realize it, but those tests can break someone inside. 4. Emotional double life. Telling her, it's nothing serious, it's chill, we're not together, while knowing very well that she's attached. And maybe you are too. Keeping things vague so she stays close without you taking responsibility. If you see yourself in even one of these, this message is for you. Not to drag you down, but to show you the exit door. We talk a lot about what toxic behavior does to others, but we rarely talk about the damage it causes inside you. When you ghost, manipulate, or hide behind coldness, you disconnect from your own heart. You start believing things like, I must not show feelings. Caring makes me weak. I lose if she sees I care. You stop trusting yourself. You stop trusting relationships. You enter every connection expecting disaster. 1 foot in, 1 foot out. And the years go by, making it harder to reconnect to who you truly are. Because yes, toxicity wounds the one who practices it too. Let's clear something up. Positive masculinity is not being a yes man, letting people walk over you, being passive, being overly soft. No, no! Positive masculinity is alignment. Your feelings, your thoughts, your words, your actions, all going in the same direction. That looks like you can say no without humiliating someone. You can end a relationship cleanly without ghosting. You can have boundaries without manipulation. You can show interest without feeling weak. This takes courage, real courage, way more than ghosting ever will.
Positive masculinity means using your power to protect, to respect, and to build equality. Gender-based violence is rooted in old patriarchal norms, and recognizing this is the beginning of transformation. Men are not the problem, they are an essential part of the solution. When a man refuses violence, when he speaks up, when he stands for respect, he inspires others. He becomes a model for his community.
Right? An evolved man isn't afraid of equality or of his own sensitivity. He can say, "This behavior isn't aligned with my values, so I'm ending it," and still remain calm, respectful, composed. That's inner strength, the kind that lifts others instead of breaking them. Powerful. If you made it this far, be proud of yourself. It means something in you is shifting already. Maybe you hurt people who didn't deserve it. Maybe you regret it. I won't lie, you can't repair everything, but you can start now. Next time you feel tempted to ghost someone, try this instead. Send one honest sentence, just one. "I don't feel ready for this relationship. I want to be honest with you." That's not weakness. That's leadership. That's dignity. Positive masculinity is not about perfection. It's about being on the path. A man who stops hiding behind toxic habits. A man who chooses empathy without losing his backbone. A man who respects others so he can respect himself. And before you ask, yes, some girls are toxic too. The toxic behaviors may look different, but they exist. We'll talk about toxic femininity, positive femininity, real emotional accountability. But that's for another video. Sisters listening right now, your blue moment is coming. Bravo for staying with me. If you want to grow with Carlin Pie, Chef Blue, and the whole community of Fireflies, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and share this with someone who needs it. 1 minute can change a thought. 20 minutes can change a man. See you soon on the Chef Blue Terrace. Ciao!